The team are on the last leg of their reality trip. They've had 5 weeks living and working alongside factory workers, banana farmers, costume jewelry makers, and rubbish pickers in the Philippines, and miners and tea pluckers in Sri Lanka. Last episode, the 5 worked as cotton pickers in Bangladesh. The poverty hit Stevie hard.
Oh, I am. I'm going to be honest. I'm losing it.
They saw workers rioting for better conditions and higher wages. In the group, Stevie and Kieran have become firm friends, leaving Peter on the outer, and Anna and Stephanie questioning the true cost of their fashionista lifestyles.
Learning about the clothing industry, that makes us feel so bad.
Reality Trip follows 5 20-somethings on a journey of discovery. They're not widely traveled, so they have limited experience of how the rest of the world lives. Competitive Kieran. Fashionista Anna, computer-obsessed Peter, people-focused Stevie, and image-conscious Stephanie. For 5 weeks, they will travel through Asia, walking in the shoes of the locals, living as they do. How will these real-life experiences affect our 5 young travelers?
I'm going insane, I can't breathe.
The 5 are in Bangladesh's capital city, Dhaka. This choked city of 15 million people is home to one of the largest garment industries in the world. Employing over 4 million people in 5,000 factories, the garment industry brings in 80% of the country's wealth and has played a major role in lifting Bangladesh out of the poverty of the 1970s and 80s. Today, the team are on their way to Babylon Garment Factory. Started as a small concern in 1986, it now employs 12,000 people and turns over $126 million a year. Before the team start their shift, they are taken to meet Babylon's general manager, Hassan.
You'll make no mistake, no mistakes.
Fast workers with no mistakes. That's what he's expecting.
You'll be paid for 1 day. So 5,000 taka divided by 26. Close to 200 taka.
That's about $2.50 US.
Okay, get to work.
The girls are big clothes buyers back home.
I love every single thing. I love the way buying a new dress can make you feel.
This jacket here, I got it for $8. Yes, I do have 3 wardrobes. That sounds really, really bad, but it's just so good.
This is the reality behind many of those clothes they buy.
I was really shocked at the cramped conditions, just how intense and crazy.
I was just overwhelmed by how many people work in such a small space.
The majority of Babylon's employees are women who've moved to Dhaka from farming villages. The minimum working age is 14.
Everyone has their own little job. No one really talks to each other.
Wages start at the equivalent of $1.50 American for an 8-hour day. But most employees choose to work an extra 2 hours overtime to bump up their wages by another 70 cents.
Oh gosh, there had to be at least a good 20 to 30 different jobs going on in one room, like from sewing the pockets, sewing the collars, sewing the cuffs.
Babylon makes clothes for large multinational brands such as H&M, Tesco, and Zara. Being in the fashion industry, Anna's the first to spot this.
I went down the row and I looked at all the brands on the t-shirts and I'm going, hang on. I know that brand, I know that brand, I wear that brand, I know that brand. Oh my God, this is where all our clothes are made. Set.
First off, the 5 are making shirt pockets. Peter can't master the sewing and loses his cool, raising a few eyebrows from the other workers.
I'm understanding what he's saying. Like, body language is a strong thing.
I would suddenly go way too fast and the thread would come out of the needle. And I think it happened 4 or 5 times and I was just getting more and more frustrated.
I give up. No, never mind. I don't want a pocket. I don't want a pocket. No, it's... It's fine. I don't want a pocket anymore.
Peter's rude manner isn't impressing the floor managers, who aren't used to workers behaving like this.
I kind of like slammed my fist down on the table, which To me, it was just an expression of frustration, but I think it came across as being rude to the people that were trying to help.
They took my stuff.
You're shit at this.
Thanks for the encouragement, man. Appreciate that.
Kieran's loving this opportunity to heap criticism on Peter. He even blames him for his own mistakes.
Oh, he made that one.
Yeah, this one. Coupled with his own incompetence and Kieran's dismissive remarks, Peter's done with sewing.
Peter's had enough and has stormed off in a huff. I'm laughing at him and giving him shit.
Despite having been on the receiving end of Kieran's taunts for 5 weeks, Peter thinks they're getting on better now.
I think Kieran's gotten more tolerant and I've gotten more sensitive to him as a person.
Kieran's not feeling so generous towards Pete.
I'm counting down the days so I don't have to be around him anymore.
He's not only enjoying putting the boot into Peter, he's also reveling in the contest of sewing.
I'm actually quite good at this. I can't believe how good I am at sewing.
I think my competitive nature came in and I just wanted to be better than everyone else at it. And I definitely was the best at the sewing.
But not according to Anna.
I'm quite proud of this pocket because it's better than Kieran's one, so I'm doing okay in my books as long as we're beating Kieran.
Who would have thought? I won't have to send my clothes home to Mum anymore. I'll do it myself.
Peter's been moved to quality control, checking the finished garments for flaws.
So many down there. Lots. So many. I wouldn't be happy in this if I was doing it 10 hours a day. But yeah, I suppose this is a lot less fiddly than sewing itself, which I'm disgustingly terrible at.
I couldn't stand there for 10 hours a day doing this. I'd go blind. I don't know what I'm looking for.
Just if it looks like it's been done by Kieran, just give it a miss.
If he does make a mistake, Kieran will have a good excuse. Stephanie and Anna have taken time out from their sewing to distract him.
Reject mistake stickers.
Don't waste them. This is unimpressive
I'm
behaviour.
just pointing out what is a mistake.
Look, I'm trying to make sew pockets here and you're disrupting workflow. Now watch this. I'll show you ladies how it's done. Stand back while I put this pocket on. What do you think, ladies?
He then sews the back to the front by mistake.
I sewed the back onto the front. That was meant to go down straight.
Oh my God.
This is just embarrassing.
This is embarrassing.
I give up.
Stevie understands that making fun of the work isn't respectful towards the other workers, but she's struggling herself.
Sewing was hard. It was one of those jobs where I thought, right, let's just get it done, but no matter how much I tried, it's a hard job.
After 5 hours, they join 600 workers for lunch in this canteen. Because this is a Muslim country, many workers pray before they eat.
Come on, hurry up.
Wave it.
Don't have forever.
A subsidized plate of food costs 15 taka. With many workers doing a 10-hour day, they can spend a fifth of their wage in this canteen. Coming up, what's Kieran done now?
Cousin.
During the lunch break at the garment factory, Maria, who's one of the workers, takes the girls back to her home in a nearby apartment complex. She lives on the 5th floor in a 2-bedroom flat, which she shares with 2 families and a co-worker.
9 people staying here.
9 people?
Yeah.
What?
In this room, there are husband and wife and 1 daughter. And beside this room, there are husband and 2 kids.
Does that mean she shares her bed with somebody else as well?
Yes.
And that's just to share the cost of living?
Yeah, just for the cost of living.
Make it cheaper.
The girls can't believe Maria has to share her bed with another person to make ends meet.
Sometimes she feels like she's a prisoner. She's staying at a jail because there are lots of rules and regulation to sharing with some other people.
Is she married?
Yes, she is.
She is married?
Yeah.
How come she doesn't live with her husband then?
Her husband ছাড়া আপনি একা একা কিভাবে থাকছেন তাই?
মানে হাজবেন্ডের সাথে একটু সমস্যা আছে এজন্য ও আলাদা থাকে ও বাড়িতে ওদের বাড়ি
They have some problem, so just now they are staying separately.
The majority of marriages in Bangladesh are arranged and involve a bride dowry. In Maria's case, her parents must pay her husband's parents the equivalent of almost 10,000 American dollars.
What 22-year-old should have to go through that? She earns 90,000 taka a year, and her husband's family require 800,000 taka. Do they not understand that she can't sort of physically give that amount because it's so large?
I don't think anything.
Because her family can't pay the dowry, she's not allowed to live with her husband.
It must be really rough for her to have to deal with that.
With all her money problems, does she love her husband? Does she want to be with him?
She told her husband, if you want to stay with me, so you can come and
Tell her she's a very strong woman to be doing what she's doing.
Maria is visibly upset and struggling to hold her emotions in. Around 30% of Bangladeshi women are in the same position as Maria, unable to be with their husband because their family can't afford the dowry.
In Bangladesh, it's pretty tough.
It's just something I would never even think or dream about having to deal with, as well as her situation with struggling, working, supporting her family, and then being stuck in a love rut, you could say.
At the factory, everyone's asleep at their workstations during the lunch break. Kieran's napping outside, but now it's time to get back to work.
I'm shattered.
At his workstation, he nods off again.
Hey, cousin. I'm awake. Cousin. I'm awake.
Yeah.
Across the floor, Stephanie's also feeling pressured by the supervisors. She thinks they push the workers too hard.
They are demanding. It's kind of sad because they're already trying their hardest and they're already working at a rate that's insanely unhuman.
Being a fashion lover, it's an uncomfortable wake-up call.
I think out of everyone, I probably shop the most. And that has definitely made me think about my clothes big time. Yeah, very shocked. I don't really like seeing my clothes being made in this way.
As a social work student and generally more aware than Stephanie, Stevie sees things from a different angle.
I think for the people who work in the Babylon factory would be considered the lucky ones. They have safety precautions everywhere. They have their rules and regulations clearly outlined. But this is a good factory. What do the other ones look like?
But for Anna, who bears a cross for the workers, Babylon's no better than any other company in terms of wages.
I ask all the workers, are you happy? Are you being paid enough? Can you survive off your wages? And they're going, no.
Hopefully this is all set to change. After months of protesting, the minimum wage is going to be doubled to a take-home pay of 5,300 taka a month. That's around $65 US or 25 cents an hour. The boys are over in quality control, where they each have to check 35 shirts per hour. Their supervisor is 25-year-old Hafiz.
He was really nice. Him and I got on more than he did with Peter, and we were talking heaps and laughing, and it was funny, we were teasing each other about cricket and how they've just beat New Zealand.
Finally, after 10 hours, their shift is up and they go back to the workers' homes where they'll be lodging for the night.
Coming.
Oh, very good.
The girls stay with Shireen, who shares a bed with her aunt in a crowded ground floor apartment complex.
So how much rent would she pay here a week?
2,000 to 300.
Shireen's portion of the rent works out to a quarter of her monthly salary. They're figures Anna struggles to come to terms with.
Paying such incredibly high rent for such terrible accommodation. You just can't live a happy life in that kind of situation. You can't enjoy life.
The boys are staying with Hafiz from Quality Control. He shares a single room in a high-rise building.
How much do you pay to live here a month?
Between 600 and 800 taka.
65 New Zealand dollars a month. To us, that's cheap.
But Hafiz only earns $40 a month, so to live here, he has to share with 8 other guys.
Where does everyone sleep when there's 8 people? Where some people on the bed, some here?
কিভাবে শোয় এটা একটু জানতে চাই।
এইখানে ঘুমায় 3 জন আর এইখানে 3 জন।
Okay, so Hafiz is saying that 2 people sleep on the bed, 3 over there and 3 over here.
Sardines in a can.
To go from standing 10 hours checking the same shirt over and over again to sharing a room with 7 other guys on a concrete floor with rats and cockroaches. It was shocking.
Tonight, there are going to be 5 sleeping on this bed.
And then, come on, let's not hog the bloody bed.
This is it.
Keep the place for me.
Over here. Oh, there's not even no turning room.
Oh, you've got room there.
Well, I've got blankets over here.
Hey, at least I've got a second light.
And did I like...
Sharing living space with so many is a difficult concept for Kieran.
Do you all get on? Because having 8 guys living in a room this size, I mean, I've struggled to get on with Peter for 5 weeks, so 8 guys in this room. Do they get on?
No, it's not that bad.
Does Hafiz have a wife or a child or a family?
He's married, but he doesn't have any child. আর আপনার wife কোথায় থাকে?
বাড়ি।
She stays. His wife stays in the village. He actually sees his wife every 1 month or 1.5 months.
Hafiz, how old are you?
25 years.
He's 25 years old.
Same age as me. It's different because, you know, I'm 25 and I have my own life, and that's totally different to this. And then you come here and meet Hafiz, who's 25 and lives in a room sort of the size of our bathroom. It's with 8 other guys. It's very different. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I haven't seen my wife for 4.5 weeks, and I miss them like crazy. So I don't know how you go, how long you do without seeing your family.
This is the first time in 5 weeks Kieran has shared his feelings and shown some empathy towards another person.
Yeah, I don't empathise with people a lot. Just for a few seconds I did, yeah.
At Shireen's, the girls are about to go to sleep.
Getting ready to sleep. It's been a long day today. Staying in a room with 5 other people in such a small space is something we're not necessarily looking forward to, but I think we're going to be so tired that it won't matter, to be honest.
Big day at the garment factory.
Yeah, and then I think we've got another long day tomorrow.
As they're winding down, Shireen sings them a song.
She sang us a song and she gave us this gorgeous little dance. And she's such a happy woman. In saying that, I did ask her, is she happy, you know, with the situation and how things are going? She said, no. How could anyone be like this? These people just deserve so much more than they're getting.
Coming up, Peter and Kieran are rickshaw drivers for an afternoon, but can they get any passengers?
I'm a rickshaw, Asha. Come on, my rickshaw.
Yesterday, the 5 worked a 10-hour shift at Babylon, one of Bangladesh's largest garment factories. Today, they're having lunch with the boss. Emdadul Islam has been in the industry since the very first factory opened in 1977.
The very first one.
Wow.
You are just,
So impressive.
this is very historic for you.
Yeah.
I say meeting one of the veterans.
You say you're a veteran of the garment industry because it's growing really fast.
It boomed. It was an explosion, and that was not right. And that is one of the main reasons why definitely there are factories who are not treating their workers properly or running their business very ethically or responsibly.
How do you feel about the workers' minimum wage going up?
I think that's okay, but lots of my other colleagues in this trade would say like impossible, 5,000 is too much. I thought like the workers actually should be getting more.
Do you yourself know your workers? Have you seen the conditions they live in?
Of course I do. I remember in several occasions, like one of the workers told me, like, "Sir, my son is now in the university." In another occasion, one of the workers was telling me, "Sir, I have a refrigerator in my house." And I felt so happy about that. But still, we do care. We do care. We do care.
You do care a lot. Before I met Abdullah, I was kind of angry about the whole garment factory situation. I've seen how they've lived. I've witnessed it. I've lived it myself. And I was angry at the situation because I was like, who was helping these people? Meeting him, it kind of changed that. He kind of showed that there was hope and there are people out there that are looking out for these people.
After lunch, the five are off to look at the housing conditions in the slums where the majority of the garment workers live.
Let's just talk about this particular slum we are looking at.
Top architect Iqbal Habib explains how unfair life can be for the poor in Dhaka. Per square foot, the rich pay less to rent their homes than people in this slum.
Unfortunately, these people, not having any ownership of the land they are in, they are always paying per square feet much more as rent than the guy who's living in that particular building, which is a high-rise with all the amenities, electricity, water, air conditioning.
100 square feet in a high-rise costs about $35 a month, and in the slums, it's $44. Slum dwellers can't afford to live in the apartments because the large floor areas push the rent out of reach. Motlab and his family came to the city 8 years ago. He's a rickshaw puller. His wife and daughters work in the garment industry. The family live in a single room.
How much do they pay a month for their room?
They are paying around 2400 taka. 2400 taka, around 2400 per room.
That's $28, more than half his monthly wage for a room with no running water.
It's very small. Oh my goodness.
One light, one fan, 8 feet by 11 feet, so roughly 88 square feet.
Yeah.
Divided, you'll find that it's a very high rent situation.
And they all just sleep on the floor, or some sleep on the bed, or some on the floor.
Some on the top. Together, they leave around 5 per room.
Rents are higher here because slums are officially illegal. That means tenants have no property rights and landlords can charge what they like.
They've got everything legalized, they've got everything illegal, unfortunately.
So it doesn't really add up?
It doesn't.
Yeah. Is being a rickshaw driver quite a hard job to do?
Kostakor? So he is pulling rickshaw from his childhood.
Peter and Kieran want to know what it takes to be a rickshaw puller, and what better place to do it than Dhaka. It's known as the rickshaw capital of the world. Peter and Kieran each rent one for $3.
Let's go!
The next challenge is to find some customers. In a city of over 400,000 rickshaws, they may be up against a fair bit of competition.
I'm a rickshaw usher! Come on, my rickshaw! I wrote on my hand what I have to say so I don't forget. I'm a rickshaw usher, and then people jump on. They just hit like, watch this. I'm a rickshaw usher! Oh, they've left me hanging.
The boys take off looking for a ride, and Pete's the first to get lucky.
I've already got a passenger! This man, come on, I'm a rickshaw usher. Here we go.
Then someone decides to give Kieran a go.
Oh no, oncoming. Oh, this is dicey. Oh, lip in here.
The traffic, the air pollution, and the sheer physical effort of pulling a rickshaw takes its toll. Some start as young as 14, the minimum working age, but not many make it past 45.
Oh my God, this is crazy. When you're on the road, you're scared of dying the entire time. It's just mental here. There are so many rickshaws and so many cars, and everyone honks their horn at you. And
Peter's passenger is a university student.
Stop here? All right. Okay. Boom.
Once at the campus, the student starts haggling Peter down in price.
So,
full half for a student, half please.
Okay, 10 then. Okay. Negotiated. I don't have any change, by the way.
But rather than go and look for some change, Peter unashamedly takes the poor student's money and goes off to find the next customer.
Oh, we got horses, we got a race.
Meanwhile, Kieran's not keeping his eye on the ball and losing money hand over fist.
Oh, he's gone. He didn't pay. He didn't pay. He's done a runner. Like we used to do when we were young. I got another one.
Peter's definitely winning on this one.
I managed to get one guy, and he gave me a full 20 taka, so, you know, well on my way to some dinner.
My passenger did a runner, he jumped off and left without paying. So, I'm not doing too well. I need a wife who's going to be working hard to pay for my wage, because I'm certainly not making any money here. I need to go find some more passengers.
Coming up, what's pushed Anna over the edge? It's the second to last day of their journey and promises to be one of the most challenging. The inevitable place to finish their investigation into Bangladesh's garment industry is Rana Plaza. When the Rana Plaza building collapsed in April 2013, it was one of the world's worst manufacturing disasters. Over 1,100 workers died and another 2,500 were injured. They've come to a recovery center for many of the survivors. It's a very different experience from the slums and factories they've seen on this trip. This is like walking through a casualty hospital in a war zone.
You're just faced with people missing limbs, so physically and emotionally affected by this disaster. It happened on such a huge scale and it affected so many people and so many families.
It really affected me, seeing 22-year-olds with bolts, like, actually in their head just to keep their spine straight, which they have to be in for 6 weeks. I really, really felt for these guys, especially the younger ones, because that is their life. It really, really drove home how much I've kind of been taking life for granted.
Reports indicate the building was poorly built and overcrowded with factory workers. 22-year-old Rosina and her sister both worked in the building. On the very morning of the disaster, she noticed massive cracks in the walls and pleaded with the supervisor to let her and her sister go home.
But the supervisor said, everyone is working, what's wrong with you? Again, she said, no, I will not work in this condition. But they said, you cannot go out now.
At that very moment, the building collapsed. Rosina was buried deep in the rubble, her arm trapped under a pillar.
The rescue team could not remove the machine, table, chairs, what on her body. They cannot move the rubbles. So the rescue team supplied her a blade to cut her own hand. Then she tried to cut it, but she do not have enough strength to cut the bones. She just cut the flesh. But she just cut the flesh, but not the bones.
The rescuers were unable to free her trapped arm. When she was pulled out, the flesh was stripped away, leaving only the bare bone, which was later amputated.
It's a lot to take in.
It is a lot.
It's all too much for Stephen.
I lost it. I started bawling my eyes out.
Even Kieran, who can block out the most emotional of situations, is visibly upset.
For the first time on this trip, he showed emotion. It wasn't a lot, but it was emotion.
I just think I just maybe let my guard down for a second and got a bit involved with what she was telling us.
I was happy that he popped his head back up and was able to carry the conversation because I wasn't able to.
What do you want to do now? What do you want to do with your life?
She is thinking, what can I do with one hand?
Did she find her sister?
বোনকে খুঁজে পেয়েছেন? বোনকে পেয়েছিলেন আরো?
আমার বোনের পাই নাই, পরে ডিএনএ রিপোর্ট দিছিল, ওই জায়গায় কবর পাইছি, আর লাশ পাই নাই।
Okay. She didn't get her sister's dead body, but after the DNA test, Bangladesh government confirmed.
Excuse me, I find your story really touching. I have 5 sisters, so it's quite hard for me to hear that you lose one. I couldn't imagine the hurt.
15-year-old Yanor is another Rana Plaza survivor. Her mother also worked there, but didn't survive. Yanor was lucky to be away from her workstation when the building collapsed.
One beam fell on her leg, and one dead body as well as fell on her. She was screaming. The rescue team rescued her after 10 hours.
It's worse enough having lost an arm and being in a chair, let alone losing family members while you're at it. Close family members. And the nightmares of having a dead body fall on you.
So she might be able to walk one day again?
Yeah, we are hoping she can work because of she is young enough.
You tell them they're both very brave and it's not something anyone should have to go through, you know. And I really hope that, you know, they get better and get back into work or, you know, follow their dreams and do what they want to do.
Stevie and Kieran rejoin the others to travel to the Rana Plaza site. It's just a wasteland now, fenced in by corrugated iron, with a monument marking the tragedy. Anna and Stephanie go to ground level, face to face with grieving parents holding photos of their loved ones. It's too much for Stephanie, but Anna stays.
You don't have to speak a language to know how they're feeling or what they're trying to say. Tears and emotion and, you know, touching, it's just such a human connection kind of bond thing.
This lady has lost her son. Without him, the family has no income.
She has 3 daughters. She cannot afford them food. They cannot give the rent of the houses.
So upsetting, I'm so sorry.
They want compensation for their loss, but the government won't give it to them unless they can provide DNA proof, an almost impossible task.
You know, you have 1,200 people, you know, who've lost their lives there, and no one gives a
It's been a harrowing insight into Bangladesh's garment trade, an industry which supplies many clothing and fashion labels around the world.
It is big. It's brought awareness to a situation that was never thought of before. I just read today that 10 more factories is being unsafe. Yeah, I read that too.
As the 5 drive back, they see massive building sites everywhere. The clothing industry alone is set to quadruple in size over the next 20 years.
Every aspect of this country is changing due to industrialisation and revolution through the production of garment working, and it's just so clear to see these people are fighting for a new future.
The end of their reality trip is in sight.
It's the whole trip.
But what will the 5 take away from it? After 33 days, they've come to the last stop on the reality trip. And it's not a slum or factory or poverty-stricken village. The 5 have journeyed to the Sundarban, the world's largest mangrove forest, situated in the southwest of Bangladesh.
If I could bottle up that smell and take it home, I so would.
The Sundarban is a World Heritage Site and sanctuary to many threatened animals, including several hundred Bengal tigers.
Through these channels, the water goes inside and the jungle inside gets the water. So tigers or any other animals, they come close to these channels to get their water.
Architect Iqbal Habib is also an environmental activist. He's brought the 5 to the Sundarban to show them how Bangladesh's garment industry can even have an impact here.
They're earning billions of dollars for the country. But along with that, the country became energy hungry. because of the industrialization in a very fast way. As a result, we are encroaching even into this forest. In some places of the forest, they are planting huge power plants.
The government is planning to build coal-fired power plants here. The long-term effect could be the destruction of this pristine environment and the animals that live here.
The power plant being built here blows my mind. The garment industry's exponential growth, I didn't really make that connection before.
This area, the Shindaban, it's just beautiful. And the fact that they want to put a power plant here annoys me because I've just seen it at the most beautiful hour.
Kieran, who's never one to shy away from unpopular opinions, sees the other side of the coin.
Yes, it's bad that it's going here and it's going to be detrimental to the tigers, but if they don't put a power plant somewhere, then the industrial growth back in Dhaka and the main cities would slow down, and then work would go elsewhere, and you know, countries like China would be the first to put a power plant wherever they want.
As they drift downstream, Iqbal takes them to a part of the riverbank where tigers come to drink.
So this is the place where you have to be very, very silent and observe everything. And if you find that the birds are flying away, you have to be very cautious. Maybe tiger is around.
Being on the calm water, the sun coming up, hearing monkeys fighting in the forest and tiger paw prints.
Jodoye tumi, surjasteo tumi, o amar Bangladesh, priyo janmabhumi.
When Iqbal sung the song, it was just a very real moment. It really put everything together. Now that we're at the end of the trip and we've sort of been through all this and heard all the stories and met the people, it all just kind of came into one, that this is what it's all about.
I think it's the first time on this trip where I've had the time to just take deep breaths, let it out, and reflect on what's just happened.
It's been the reality trip of a lifetime. 5 weeks experiencing lives they never could have imagined back home in New Zealand. Working side by side with the locals and sharing moments that will stay with them forever. For Stevie, the highlight of the trip was in the Philippines, when she and Anna persuaded Esther to leave her life as a rubbish picker in the Tondo slum and go back to her village to be reunited with her daughter after 15 years.
It was a cry of pure happiness. Just the way the daughter just screamed out, "Mama."
My favourite moment was by far in the Philippines when we were at a costume jewellery village, and when we got up the next day and just started playing around with the kids, they were just really happy, and it was fun.
But it's not all been fun. There's been hard work and real low points, like when Stevie lost it with the rest of the group at the cotton pickers village.
It's just frustrating because all I feel like saying is, wake up.
Hardest moment was just meeting these people, I think, and learning their difficulties.
There's been no one moment that I can really point to and just say, I wanted to just get out. Except maybe that time I broke down in the mining field. But I wouldn't trade any of it for anything.
For Anna, her day at Rana Plaza stands out.
I feel so closely connected to the garment industry myself. So going to the place and just seeing what an absolute tragedy it was, I just felt devastated.
It's been hard, but at the same time, it's been the happiest moments of my life.
Relationships within the group have been constantly changing. Now that it's almost over, where do they stand?
At this point, I'd consider everyone in the group, we're all friends.
Pete's probably pretty blunt, and so I won't have a friendship with Pete after this.
I definitely think that I will keep up with Anna the most.
I don't think I will keep in seriously close contact with anyone forever.
And for two people who couldn't be more dissimilar in their political views, Kieran and Stevie will probably stay in touch.
As the journey's gone on, he's kind of become the person I find myself wanting to hang out with just for the fact that we have good conversation.
After so many insights into other people's lives, what have they learned about their own?
Before I came on this trip, I was in a place where I wasn't doing a heck of a lot. I was kind of spending time because I wanted to get rid of it. I think coming out here, that won't be enough. I have to be doing something now.
I think that just the trip as a whole has made me think I should just try harder to be the nicer person to be around. Don't be a prick, to put it bluntly.
What I've come to realise is I overconsume. And that's not to say that it's wrong, but it is to say to think about it and to try cut back anyway and to, you know, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Being on this journey, it's kind of flipped my whole entire world upside down, to be honest. Because, God, we've heard some extraordinary stories and met some incredible people, and I think this is something that has really just changed my life.
I'll take this home and I'll use it to my advantage, not just in my career, but in everyday life. And at this point, I can't give a lot physically, but I can spread the word. I do have a mouth, and it's a pretty good one.
Iqbal has a final message for all of them.
When you'll go back, all of you, none of you can sleep if you don't do anything for the mankind. You are the change maker. So take it inside and do whatever you can. Then your life will be meaningful. That I've done something, somewhere, one of the change makers for the world.
6 months have passed and they've resumed their normal lives in New Zealand. What effect has the reality trip had on them? Has it changed them? Stephanie had a black belt in shopping and admitted her hard-working parents had spoiled her rotten.
I moved out of home, I got a new job at a property firm, so now I'm a young corporate professional. And I don't shop as much as I used to.
Kieran's competitive streak drove him to be the best in his work, but his partner and son didn't get his full attention.
I've got my ass into gear and proposed to Marissa and made a decent woman out of her, and we've also welcomed our beautiful baby daughter Mila. I think being in the Philippines and seeing all the families there, especially in the village we stayed, sort of hit home that how important family is.
Anna's strong opinions on the exploitation of people conflicted with her love of clothes and career as a fashion journalist.
I've donated half my clothes to charity. I've stopped buying from brands that I think contribute hugely to the problems over there. And I have started my own little personal mission in Bangladesh to try and improve the way that workers are treated.
Peter escaped the Christchurch earthquakes and was living with his parents. His life was dominated by computers and gaming.
I've managed to just dive headfirst into my work. I've been offered a full-time position. I've moved out of home, and I'm starting a whole bunch of projects that I'm really passionate about.
Helping to bring up her sisters and brother kept Stevie grounded, but she'd become self-absorbed in her studies and future career as a social worker.
Now I'm able to appreciate the little things and live life a lot more simply than I once did, and just be content with what I have and not worry about what I don't have.